What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Warehouse Series. So today I want to talk about what to expect whenever you're changing jobs. Believe it or not, I get this quite often under the comment section of my YouTube channel. I get it on Discord within the chats, and I get this privately quite often. So I want to go over a little bit stuff that you should look for whenever you're changing jobs or switching from one warehouse to another warehouse or just to another job, period. Before we get to that, I had someone private message me. It's been 5 days since I posted. I love this. It's like, are you okay? Everything going good? I love the fact that you guys love my content that much that you're looking for me to post videos. But I just want to let you know that I am constantly chatting with people every day, privately. Every day I am going back and forth. Sometimes it lasts hours. I put a lot of time and effort into this channel, a lot of time and effort into personally helping people on private messages. So you guys, the only thing I could say is once my Discord starts growing bigger and bigger and bigger, I might have to keep my chats a little shorter and shorter. But I try as much as I possibly can to give you as much information as possible within my chat. But like I said, I'm very humbled that people ask me all the time about leaving jobs and, what should I do and stuff of that nature. So I just want to go over a little bit of things that you should look for whenever leaving a job. All right, guys, so before I get to the first thing that I think you should look at with doing job transfers, what is the one thing that comes out of everybody's mouth? The hourly rate. You know how least important that hourly rate is depending on what else you get from that job? Okay, because I know people that make $30 an hour, more than me. They're making $30 an hour, but they have crappy health care, they have crappy retirement, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so there's more to an hourly rate. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, 401k. So if you have a 401k at your job right now, inquire. You should have a whole entire list of what you make now and start asking questions. Don't say, this is what I have at my job now. Just say, I'm curious what your 401k has. Do you have a 401k? Yes. Okay, well, what's your contributions? Okay, at your job now, you get 25 cents on the dollar. Over at that job, you're getting $1 on the dollar. You got to start weighing your pros and cons between each workplace that you're going to. It's more than just being a laborer and a non-laborer. There are perks to being in a warehouse. I'm just saying that I don't think you should be doing it as a career. You should be coming in and, you have a family, maybe when your kids turn 18, you know what, I'm out of there. I'm not going to be doing, warehouse work anymore. So the first thing, 401k, and if they have a 401k, you could transfer your 401k from your previous work over to your new work. So that's a good plus, and inquire about those matches. And inquire about other retirement plans. Do they have any other type of retirement plans? So that's the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about, once again, you could make $40 an hour and I can make $20 an hour and I could have incredible healthcare and you could have crappy healthcare. So the second thing I want to talk about is healthcare. Guys, healthcare is huge. And this goes for anywhere over the world. I don't care where you work, or what part of the country or what part of the world you live in, healthcare is huge. So you got to ask, you got to inquire. You should be doing your homework. You should have a list. You should be asking these people all these questions, whoever's interviewing you or whatever. Hey, and once again, don't say what you have now. They don't want to hear that crap. They want to know, hey, what kind of healthcare you have? And then you go home and you weigh the pros and cons between two jobs. They don't care what you have at your previous job right now. They're telling you what they have. So ask them, what's the healthcare like? How much do I have to pay? What's my deductible? What's my co-pays? Be specific about what your healthcare is about, because this is a huge plus, if it's good healthcare. So another thing to talk about. All right, another thing, that's something that's really important is what shift are you going to be working? You might be working an afternoon shift now, and the new job, you have to work night shift, and I'll tell you what, I worked night shift for 12 years and it's not fun. I don't care who says what. Now, I know people at my work that have been on night shift for 25 years. I don't care what they say. Your sleep is never right. Okay? Your life is different when you're on night shift. Now, I was on night shift for 12 years. I'm back on daylight again. It's priceless. I don't know if I'll ever go back to night shift again, unless I'm actually forced there because of my home life. But guys, that's a huge thing. All right, I work daylight at my job now, but the new job's night shift. I'm telling you right now, don't go there. Unless you worked night shift before, or maybe they say, hey, you got to work nights for 6 months and then you're going to go to daylight. But definitely ask questions about that too, because working nights really stink. Ask what shift you're working. Are you working afternoon, daylight, nights? So that's a big thing that you need to ask whenever you're inquiring. All right, guys, the next thing I want to talk about is time off. I get whatever X amount of days of paid time off at my place now. How long is it going to take to accumulate the amount of time that I have off now to over there? And is it as free as my place that I'm at now? The freedom I'm at now is I can call off tomorrow if I want to. I'm not feeling good. I just don't want to go to work, so I'm going to take a paid sick day, and I just call the call off line and I'm done. All right. So is that place as lenient, or do I have to get someone to cover me, to call off at that place? So having the freedom to take off when you want, it's priceless. So that is definitely something to consider whenever going to a new job. All right, another thing, guys. Huge thing. Mandatory overtime. The place that you're at now has mandatory overtime 4 or 5 days a week. But over at that place, it's an 8-hour shift. So depending on what kind of work schedule you're starting, what you're looking for, if you like the overtime, and you're trying to pay off debt, you're trying to get ahead, you're trying to save for your future, maybe you want to stay at the job that has the mandatory overtime, even though you don't like it, compared to go from 50, 60 hours a week, going to a permanent 40 hours a week because they have 0 overtime. So that is something to definitely consider too. As much as you hate mandatory overtime, you sort of get used to those paychecks rolling in. So to go from this to that to a 40-hour paycheck, it's going to be a big reality check to you. So you need to make sure you have your finances in check. That's why, once again, I'm going to say that these warehouses, a lot of them force mandatory overtime. Get in, make as much money as you possibly can, and move on. But do not move on unless you're like health-wise, your back's bothering you or something to that nature. But if you're capable of doing the job, get that crap paid. Get whatever you need to get paid, get ahead, and then you can move on if you would like to do so. And the last thing I want to talk about is job security. Okay, so this is going to be a gray area. I don't like getting to an extent off of the warehousing, but this has to go with it. Okay, I'm not trying to get political on this channel ever, but this is a gray area. Job security. What's going to come in the future? Okay, we just got years of free money. Inflation's taken off. The Federal Reserve has already said they're doing 3 rate hikes this year, and they're probably going to do another 3 next year. Interest rates in the future, and I'm talking near future, probably 3 to 5 years, are going to be a lot higher than what they are now. We are going to see a lot, and this is the United States I'm talking about, obviously. I'm sure, but you know what? Everyone was giving stimulus packages out all over the world, so you guys have got to be wary of that. I'm not saying that you have to go and do a bunch of research, but I'm just saying if you're in the food industry, okay, when everything shut down in the United States, when everything shut down, what thrived? Okay, groceries. Groceries thrived, everything else shut down. Okay, essential businesses. You never know what the heck is going to come up in the future now after what we just experienced with businesses shutting down and that. So if you're in the food industry and you're going somewhere else that's not food, that's another thing that I think you need to consider. The whole entire, I don't even know what you want to call it, the whole game has changed over this pandemic. This pandemic has changed a lot of things, the way you should be thinking about certain things. I do see something happening in the future that's going to be strapping people. So being a job that you have job security is something also huge. So that's it for today. I hope these things help you making your decision if you want to leave from one job to the next. You know, just, you gotta weigh your options. You can't just make that rash decision that, you know, the heck with this place, they force me every day, I'm going over here, you know, I'm getting the heck out of here. And then 3 months later, you realize that you made a bad decision. You've got to weigh your options. Guys, that's it for today. I hope everyone has a great day. I'll see you next time.